Hey brick fans, and welcome to the Brick Bakery, where all our jokes are half baked. I'm Jacob, and today is the first video of Space Month, and we're starting out with a Let's Build. Today we are having a look at the 6544 Shuttle Transcon 2, which is a set from 1995 that consists of 323 parts and 3 minifigs. The 6544 was part of the Launch Command sub-theme. There was a sub-theme under the Town theme, which ran from 1995 to 1997. What was special about this theme was that it was the first theme to focus on real-world, present-day space travel and exploration. The classic LEGO space focuses more on science fiction space travel and science fiction space exploration. So this was the first theme to depict such things as space shuttles and so on. It ended in 1997 and was succeeded by the spaceport theme that started in 1999. But without further ado, let's have a cool look at this Launch Command set. This is the manual for this set, and I think it is well done. It has some great background stuff and also some great stuff going on in the foreground. I really like this launch ramp here and the big satellite dish, and the fact that we sort of see our destination, the moon, right here is kind of cool too. I like all the activity that's going on down here, even though it's not necessarily too realistic that the guys are checking out the satellite at this point. The back shows us different situations that can happen once you've built it all. A scenario up here where the people are walking around talking, a scenario here where the shuttle is in flight and putting out a satellite, and a transport situation of the shuttle in the bottom. But without further ado, let's get into that build. Here we can clearly see the consequence of displaying LEGO bricks in the sunlight. This part was clearly under other bricks, so it hasn't gotten discolored, but this has been exposed to sunlight for I think maybe as much as half a year. It was standing in my windowsill and soaking up sunlight for quite a while. The white parts were actually pretty discolored too, but I managed to bleach these to a sufficient degree, but the grey ones I haven't gotten around to make any progress on yet, but I will do that at some point. But here you can clearly see the consequence of putting bricks, LEGO bricks, in sunlight. So be sure not to do that. That will discolor them a lot. There was actually some sets before this one that had depicted the space shuttle, and one of them was the 1682 space shuttle, which was a very clear reference to the American space shuttle using the NASA logo, for instance. This set, however, and the set in the Launch Command theme, used a different logo, namely this one, which isn't as clear a reference to NASA as the other one. So this is, as I said, the first theme to actually depict a space shuttle and space exploration based in a LEGO reality. Here we see a problem with the instruction books from way back when. It's very hard to decipher where these jet engines are actually supposed to go, so I'm gonna put them where I think these fit. It's gonna be my best guess. That's the transport plane finished. Very impressive in size, but not very good at holding its tools in the small compartments here. These come open just by shaking it ever so gently. So, onwards. I did start out this review by stating that we could see the goal, the moon, for our space exploration. Now, it is true that no space shuttle ever went to the moon, though. Most of these shuttles were used to put satellites in orbit and put parts or transport parts for the International Space Station, so on and so forth. They never ever went into outer space as such. So while the moon, or Mars for that matter, might be the goal, it was never the goal of the shuttles to go anywhere but in relatively close Earth orbit to do different kinds of tasks. To protect the stickers, I've put these panels here on this plate. This plate has nothing to do with the build as such, but to protect these stickers not to be broken, I've put them on this. And here you can really see the discoloration of the white bricks. This is almost yellow. It looks like almost like smoke damage, but it isn't. This is just pure sunlight. So please take care of your bricks. Don't place them in direct sunlight, or this will happen to them. And that is the shuttle finished. I really like this one. I like how much it actually looks like the actual shuttle. I'm a little annoyed by this discoloration right here, but unfortunately I'm pretty sure that these stickers won't survive a good dunk in something that can actually bleach these bricks, so this is just how it has to be, unless I find some replacement stickers at some point, but that's probably going to be pretty expensive. So this is the best solution I've got for now, no matter how annoyingly discolored it is. The finished build looks like this. It's a space shuttle atop a transport plane and a little ground assistance vehicle. It is the second biggest set in the Launch Command sub-theme, only surpassed by the shuttle launch pad. However, it is still amazingly big, and I am very surprised now how big this plane really is. In my memory, it was a little smaller. However, the size is of course no problem, and it doesn't subtract from the awesomeness that is this set. We're gonna take a look at each part of this from smallest to biggest, ending with the minifigures, of course. This is the small ground assistance vehicle. This is a very cool little Jeep-esque vehicle that I think fits this build very, very nicely. Its main function is to help the plane when it has landed and getting it directed to its right location on ground. It does this by using these lights up here and this rod that can be attached to the back. This rod means that it can lead the plane to the location where it needs to be. And the plane doesn't have to steer too precisely because it is led by the ground vehicle. Besides the functionality, this little vehicle is very simple, and what really makes this one come alive, I think, is this little logo here on front. This is a printed piece, and I really like this logo, I've got to admit. Other than that, there is just the steering wheel and the attached walkie-talkie here on the back, which isn't terribly complex but does do the work. Next up is the shuttle itself, which is an impressive design, I think. Even though it's only 4 studs wide, they've still managed to actually make room for a payload inside. And that is actually pretty impressive considering the lack of space that's in a 4-wide vehicle. I'm also impressed how closely the designers has come to replicating the real-world look of the space shuttle in this little build. First of all, there is the blend of the black and the white, which mimics the real thing very, very precisely. And the way that these quote-unquote wings protrude from the sides look very, very convincing as well. On the back we've got 3 wonderful jet engines that's supposed to help this vehicle navigate while it is in space and while it is taking off from the ground to get into space. And this aileron piece right here has a sticker to give an impression of a working aileron. I'm fairly certain I once heard an astronaut say that flying the space shuttle was much like flying a brick. And I wonder if that's because these ailerons right here is actually a sticker on the real thing, just like this Lego model. The cockpit can be opened up by detaching this little part right here and reveals the astronaut inside. Looking inside, we see this wonderful little computer piece right here that has some great aviation specific drawings on it. The main play function of the shuttle is of course the cargo compartment, which can be accessed by opening these panels right here. And inside there's another play function with this crane arm right here that can be used to put the satellite into orbit. The crane arm is very, very flexible as it has 3 or 4 joints, so it can actually turn in many different directions, which is pretty cool. The small satellite is pretty cool as it has some solar panels that can be extended like this and a small radio disc that allows it to communicate with the ground personnel. The cargo hold also holds the air tanks for the astronaut, so he is ready for an extravehicular activity or EVA. And lastly, there is of course the transport plane, which is impressively big, and I really like the color scheme of this one, I've got to admit. The blue, white, red and gray fit perfectly together and underlines the logo right here in a wonderful way. And speaking of the logo, it looks like the very young me actually managed to put this little sticker on the wrong way round. This shuttle should be pointing this way rather than this way. The plane is a standard transport plane in many regards when we look at 1990s Lego sets. Except for its length, of course, this plane does seem a little bigger than most other transport planes that I've had in my childhood collection. This is about 40 studs long and maybe a little shorter, but it is a little hard to actually calculate precisely because of the angle here and the angle out here. If we open up into the cockpit, there's again one of these little avionic computers that was also in the shuttle, and it is still just as cool, I think. Down the side there are these little cupboards here that can be used for storage. Unfortunately, these small doors has a tendency to come open at an opportune moment, so whatever's in there will eventually fall out when you are playing around with it. So the swooshability is not that great. Maybe that's because the parts for this plane is getting up there in age. The main play feature is of course the opening of the passenger compartment that does hold a small radar. And besides that, there's also the small cargo compartment in the back, which can also hold the tools that I mentioned before. And then of course there is the minifigs. These two are the ground personnel and this is the astronaut. The ground personnel has some very interesting printing on their torso. I like that little name tag and the logo. I'm really impressed by the level of details in these guys. Their face print is pretty cool too, and I like that microphone that they have so they can use their radio for communication. The astronaut is very interesting because he is basically just a white figure with a print on his torso. The print on the torso is great, and I do like that little logo. Again, this time it seems a little clearer than on the blue torsos, and those small electronic devices on his torso are great as well. The centerpiece of this fig is of course that visor, which looks wonderful. It is such a great replication of the real astronauts' visors. This they usually use when it's very sunny outside, so they have this big sunglass-like visor that can keep out the sun. Underneath the helmet he has the same face print as the other figures, but that's not a problem. I think this one is very fitting. And as usual, there's no back printing for these figures, as was normal in the 1990s. Overall, this is a great set, and I really like how the three different builds actually interact with each other. Each build serves a function in this set. The big plane carries the shuttle, and the small car is used to help the plane get into its space on a landing field. So when it comes to play functions, this set is actually very well thought out, and that is pretty impressive. I'm also amazed about the level of realism that is actually in this set. It's hard to do anything that is realistic when you use this 4-wide standard. But for some reason, in some way, they actually managed to pull this one off, I think. I think it really speaks to the abilities of the LEGO designers, how well this one is thought out and how good it looks in terms of realism. So it's a great set, great play features, great realism, and a great color scheme. That was the 6544 Shuttle Transcon 2, and this set I really like. It does illustrate one of the problems that LEGO had in the 90s, namely these stickers that went across two bricks, so it is very hard to take it apart without destroying the bricks. For some reason, I've actually managed to save these and they haven't broken, so that's pretty cool. And overall, I do like this set. I think it is very nice, but then again, I am a sucker for everything space and space exploration. But that's all for me today. I hope you'll comment, like, and subscribe, and I hope I'll see you guys next Monday.